Sometimes kindness doesn't arrive with fireworks or applause. Sometimes it shows up quietly, soaked in rain, standing at your door, asking for the one thing that feels hardest to ask for. That night taught me that a single hug, given at the right moment, can change the direction of two lives forever. Before we begin, if you enjoy emotional, real-life inspired stories that remind us of the power of kindness, take a second to subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment below. It truly helps the channel grow and allows us to share more meaningful stories here on your channel name. I didn't expect anyone that evening. The rain had started out soft, the kind you barely notice, but by nightfall it had turned heavy and relentless. I was sitting on my couch, half watching a rerun, half lost in my own thoughts, when the doorbell rang. At first I ignored it. People don't usually show up unannounced anymore. But then it rang again, longer this time. Something in my chest tightened. I stood up and walked to the door, not knowing why my heart had started beating faster. When I opened it, there she was. She stood on my porch, soaked from head to toe. Her hair was pulled back into a messy bun, strands stuck to her face. Her light blouse was damp, clinging to her shoulders, and her eyes looked exhausted, not just tired, worn down. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I hadn't seen her in months, but I recognized her instantly. How could I not? She was someone who had once meant everything to me. Someone I had shared laughter with, long talks, small dreams, and quiet hopes I never said out loud. "I'm sorry," she finally said, her voice shaking. "I know it's late." I stepped aside without thinking. "Come in, you're freezing." She hesitated for half a second, then walked past me into the warm light of my living room. I grabbed a towel and handed it to her. Our fingers brushed for just a second, and she flinched like the touch surprised her. We stood there awkwardly, two people who once felt like home to each other, and now didn't quite know where to stand. "I didn't know where else to go," she said softly. I nodded. I didn't ask why. Kindness doesn't always need explanations. She sat on the edge of the couch, gripping the towel in her hands. I poured her a cup of tea, the same way I used to when she was stressed or overwhelmed. When I handed it to her, she gave a small, sad smile. "You still remember," she said. "Some things don't disappear," I replied. Silence filled the room again, but this time it wasn't uncomfortable. It was heavy, the kind of silence that carries years of unsaid words. She stared at the steam rising from the cup, blinking rapidly. I could tell she was trying not to cry. Finally, she whispered, "I've had a really bad day. Actually, a really bad few months." I sat down across from her, not too close, not too far. "You don't have to explain anything you don't want to." That's when her shoulders began to shake. At first, she tried to hold it in. She pressed her lips together, took a shaky breath, and looked away. But pain has a way of breaking through walls, no matter how strong we pretend to be. "I thought I could handle everything on my own," she said, her voice cracking. "I thought being strong meant not needing anyone." Tears rolled down her cheeks, and she didn't bother wiping them away. I was wrong. I didn't interrupt her. I didn't rush to fix anything. I just listened. Sometimes kindness means letting someone fall apart without telling them to pull themselves together. She talked about the pressure she'd been under, the expectations people had placed on her, the loneliness that crept in even when she was surrounded by others. She talked about feeling invisible, about feeling like she had to earn care instead of deserving it. Then she looked at me, really looked at me, and her voice dropped to almost nothing. "I didn't come here for advice," she said. "I didn't come here to talk." I waited. She swallowed hard. "Can you give me a hug?" For a split second, time froze. In that moment, I realized how rare it is for adults to ask for comfort so honestly. We're taught to toughen up, to keep moving, to deal with things quietly. Asking for a hug can feel more vulnerable than asking for help. I stood up and opened my arms. "My arms have always been open for you," I said. She stood too, stepping into my space carefully, like she was afraid I might change my mind. When I wrapped my arms around her, she broke completely. She cried into my shoulder, gripping the back of my shirt like it was the only thing keeping her upright. I held her, Not tightly, not loosely, but the way you hold someone when you want them to feel safe. She smelled like rain and soap and something familiar I couldn't name. For a long time, we didn't move. In that hug, there were no expectations, no past arguments, no questions about the future. There was just one human being offering comfort to another. Her breathing slowly steadied, her grip softened. She didn't pull away right away, and I didn't rush her. When she finally stepped back, her eyes were red, but her face looked lighter, like she had set something heavy down. "Thank you," she said. "I didn't realize how much I needed that." I smiled gently. We all do sometimes. She stayed a while longer. We talked about simple things, safe things, the rain outside, a movie she'd watched recently, the way life never seems to turn out the way we expect. Before she left, she paused at the door. "I was scared you wouldn't open it," she admitted. "I'm glad you knocked," I said. When the door closed behind her, I stood there for a moment, listening to the rain again, but it felt different now, quieter, kinder. That night reminded me of something important. Kindness isn't always about grand gestures. It's about presence. It's about opening the door when it would be easier to stay on the couch. It's about listening without judgment, holding space without conditions, and offering comfort without asking for anything in return. A hug won't solve every problem. It won't erase pain or magically fix a broken life. But sometimes, it gives someone just enough strength to keep going. And sometimes, it heals the person giving it too. So if someone ever stands in front of you, vulnerable and brave enough to ask for kindness, open your arms. You never know how much it might mean.